Hello, students. Happy Tuesday it is now. Thank you so much for joining us online for our virtual town hall. This is something that I'm really excited about. It's giving us the opportunity as students to ask questions and get some answers from our university leadership here. I know we're all going through some pretty challenging times from moving back home, taking classes online, and this is a pretty cool opportunity for us to get those questions answered. Today, we are sitting here with President Myers, Provost Tabor, and Dr. Lane. And throughout the entire virtual town hall, I really invite you to ask questions in two different ways. You can either email the Vice President of Comms and Marketing, and that is at vpcm@ksu.edu, and we'll be monitoring all questions from there to be asked to our panelists today. Or if you are on YouTube Live, just comment right below in that chat, and we will try to get those questions answered as well. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to President Myers, Provost Tabor, and Dr. Lane for their self-introductions. After that, we will jump right into questions. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jansen. And like Jansen, we think this is a great opportunity. We hope there are lots of folks out there listening or will follow up when we're off there on the YouTube link as well, and continue to send us questions. Obviously, this is a very stressful time, creates a lot of anxiety for a lot of folks, and we'd like to make sure we hope this session will help reduce a little of that anxiety and keep you better informed. Communications are so important, so this probably won't be the last town hall this semester, depending on how you all think it ought to go in the future. Just a couple of things, and we'll keep this short so we can get the questions, but sort of our guiding principles as we've gone through this is keep our students, faculty, staff safe, and keep our communities safe. Olathe, Salina, here in Manhattan, and the communities where students are. And I would say, based on discussions with our senior medical folks here in the state of Kansas, that the state of Kansas has been pretty aggressive and a little ahead of the curve in terms of taking action. So closing down schools K through 12, the universities going to remote or distance education. We've been sort of leading in that way. And so I think we're doing a pretty good job of keeping everybody safe and well, but we got to keep at it. The wave has not hit Kansas yet. Folks in Topeka think that wave will be here the peak will be the last sort of 10 days of April. So we've got a long way to go. In the meantime, physical distancing and washing your hands is the best thing we can do. And if we do that, then we might come out of this a lot different than what you're seeing on the TV around New York City. That's our hope. And then the sooner we can do that, the quicker we'll get back to normal. The second principle, of course, is carrying out our land-grant mission around teaching, research, and outreach. Teaching, of course, students, you're right in the middle of that. There's a lot going on in the research area as well, trying to do as much as we can to apply for grants that are coming out of the federal government, even though we're doing this all virtually, to stay in the research game in a major way, even though we're in these unusual circumstances. And then the last one is to maintain our unique K-State culture. That's why I'm here. That's why a lot of you are here. We like this culture we have here at K-State. And the physical distancing makes it more difficult to stay connected. We really want to stay connected. And so when we come out of this, whenever we come out of it, we're going to be just as strong, K-State strong, as when we went into it. So those are my three main points. Let me introduce Chuck Tabor, our provost and executive vice president.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm looking forward to hearing from you this afternoon. I am the chief academic officer at the university, and that means that a lot of the activity, the work that our faculty and academic staff have been doing to get courses online has been under me. This is an unprecedented effort for the university to get this going, and it's an unprecedented situation for you, and we recognize that. And we know how much stress there is in this, and how sort of upturning all of the ways in which you've been doing your classes is affecting you. So what I want to tell you is that we've really been trying to think about how we can relieve some of that pressure on students. One of the decisions that we've been thinking about really for the last week, and we've been consulting students, faculty, academic staff, our faculty senate and governance systems, other universities, KBOR. This has been the issue of pass-fail, our grading policy for the semester. And we have decided, and you'll see an announcement tomorrow, that we are going to extend the option of the A pass-fail, which is on the books. It's an option where you receive an A if you get an A, you get a pass if you get a B, C, or D for undergraduate students. You get a pass if you're a B or C for graduate students, and you get a fail for undergraduate students if you get an F, and a fail for graduate students if you get a D or an F. I hope that's clear. We'll put out a very clear announcement tomorrow about this. We're extending the option for you to select this by course, so you choose for any individual course, to May 8th. It's the very end of the semester, the last week of classes. We think that that will relieve some of the stress that you're feeling and also provide a fair opportunity for your work to be reflected in your grade. Now, there are a number of limitations and restrictions. This covers all courses at the graduate and undergraduate level, including your courses for major requirements. But there are some issues that you'll want to talk about with your advisors. So one of the key points we're making is that you need to reach out to an advisor if you're considering taking this. And remember, you have until the end of the semester to make this decision. So it would not be wise to jump on it right away. You need to take some time and see where you stand and talk to your advisor and make sure that it's the right decision for you. But I'm going to stop there. I'll be happy to answer questions about that or any other academic issues that you have. I wanted to turn it now to Vice President Thomas Lane, Vice President of Students.
Thank you, Provost Tabor. Students, thank you so much for being part of today's town hall. If someone would have told me last month that I'd be finishing up my first year at K-State without you physically on campus, I would not have believed them. Like you, we're all adjusting to this new environment, and our student life services are also reimagining how they can best serve you in a remote environment. And we're just a mouse click or a phone call or an email or a Zoom meeting away. You know, we talk about K-State family a lot, and one of the things that I've learned this first year in my role is that being part of the K-State family goes way beyond wearing purple, though that's really important. But it means knowing that you belong and knowing you matter and knowing that you're not alone and knowing that you're surrounded by others who want to help support you in achieving all of your goals. And these past few weeks haven't changed that. Beyond this town hall, reach out when you're needing support. And I know that can be tough to do, but you know, you've been seeing a lot of information about K-State Strong. Well, knowing when to ask for help is a sign of strength. And so we want to help, whether that be from student life, the provost area, your faculty, student success staff, your academic advisors. Know that our commitment extends far beyond the physical boundaries of our campus. We'll get through this together as a strong K-State family. But just know that I miss seeing you on campus, and I'm greatly looking forward to when I get a chance to reconnect with you in person.
President Myers, Provost Tabor, Vice President Lane, thank you very much. And Provost Tabor for mentioning how a pass-fail is going to be implemented on that. And I know for myself, I'm looking forward to communication tomorrow to get a lot more of those detailed questions answered, because I know a lot of that entails in that. So I'm looking forward to seeing that tomorrow. But jumping into our first question here, there have really been a lot of concerns regarding refunds for students. So with us now taking classes online, some having limited access to internet connectivity, maybe rural students, as well as limited campus access to different things in the privilege fee, such as Lafayette Health Center, the Rec Complex, and the Student Union. What is the university's plan to continue to serve students with some of these services? And has there been any consideration in partially refunding some of these fees?
let me
I can- oh,
let
go
me
ahead, go
direct that, Thomas. Let me direct that to you first, because you've got probably the largest dollar amount.
Sure. So in regards to the privilege fee, there's been lots of discussion on this topic. In regards to a partial refund of the privilege fee, lots of discussion, but the decision has been made not to do so. Now, why did we make that decision? Several reasons. The first one is that, for example, the union and the rec center have bond obligations that they need to make payment on, just like folks might have a mortgage to pay on their house. Those payments have got to be made. Utilities still have to be paid on those facilities. There's equipment repair, equipment replacement that's occurring. In some of our program areas, we have contracts that we had for the spring that are going to be moved over to the fall, and those need to be paid for. Also, we have student employees that are in both of those areas or throughout the privilege fee areas, in addition to full-time staff that are still being paid. So those are all of the factors that went into that decision. In regards to housing and dining, we do anticipate a prorated refund coming to students. We're still working out the details on that. Any refund that would get applied would go onto your CASES account, and that would be applied against any balance that's currently owed to the university before that refund would would come to you.
That's why you're on a roll. Why don't you go ahead and handle the parking too?
Sure. We've received a lot of questions about parking fees, our parking refunds. Pleased to share that the Parking Council is going to be meeting this week to discuss a potential prorated refund. That would also include the parking garage. So more information about parking refunds are going to be shared via K-State Today. You can look for that later this week or at the beginning of next week.
And Dr. Lane, on a very similar note to that, what can students do to access some of those different, maybe different things on the privilege fee or different things offered from the Office of Student Life, whether that be advising, counseling, different opportunities provided by the Lafayette Health Center for our well-being of students. So what can students do even if they're out of state or back at home?
Great question. And you know, this situation has given us the opportunity to really think about how we serve our students. And I'm pleased to share that we are continuing to do counseling at Counseling Services. We at first were only able to work with our students who are in the state of Kansas, but we've been able to work out licensure agreements that allow us to do brief counseling with students from across many states. And so we had about over 50 students actually that received counseling this past week. The rec center is looking at putting on group fitness classes online. They're doing a fitness blog right now as we speak. There'll be lots of other opportunities coming from rec services. The Office of Student Life is staffed Monday through Friday. You can call or email and you'll reach a staff member Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And they're also available after hours. And they're there anytime that you might have a concern, if you're facing a barrier that's impacting your personal or your academic success. They want to hear from you and they want to be able to support and advocate for you. So know that you can contact the Office of Student Life. Our Career Center continues to offer virtual drop-ins, lots of opportunities for resume critique. This could be a great time to sharpen up resumes. And so our Career Center staff are ready and willing to help virtually. Lafayette continues to do acute care and has been playing a great role in terms of how we as a campus and our community is responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'll stop there unless there's questions on other areas, but know that there's lots of ways to access the services that we provide through Student Life and other areas on campus, and we look forward to serving you in the best way we can.
Thomas, let me foot stomp one of the things you talked about, and that is the counseling services that we offer. Please, 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 students, take advantage of those counseling services. While they might have to be briefer conversations in some states, in virtually all cases, we can refer you to people in the area in which you are currently living. So don't hesitate to reach out. Our counselors want to do the best for you they can, and they're going to go certainly the extra mile to do that. So please don't hesitate. We know the stress and the anxiety that all this upheaval is causing right now. So please use them.
One thing I failed to mention is that the Counseling Center is also putting on self-help workshops, Zoom workshops that occur twice a week on a number of different self-help topics. So those will be a great way also to kind of engage in some self-care, which is really important right now.
Thank you, Dr. Lane, President, for answering those questions. And for some of our students, as of me, I'm an out-of-state student as well. There have been concerns, especially kind of looking at out-of-state student tuition, how we pay more per credit hour, more than an in-state student, and as well as more for those global campus students as well. And so with now all of our classes being online, has there been any consideration in reimbursing some of those fees for some of our international students who do pay a higher per credit hour, or for those out-of-state students now that all of us are taking classes online? Or what are some of the considerations in that?
So I'll answer that question. So we've followed this basic principle from the beginning that we're committed to continuing to offer the courses that we started the semester with, so students can make progress toward their degrees. And that's what we're doing. And that's been a huge effort on our part. In fact, since credits are being earned towards the courses that were originally enrolled in, we've decided we're not going to consider tuition refunds of any kind at this time. This switch to online has required some additional equipment, and there's actually quite a lot of additional expense that has gone with that. And so really the considerations here are being able to support the basic operations that allow students to be successful at the university. And so we have to be able to support those operations with the revenue that was anticipated at the beginning of the semester. The other point I'll make is that, more than half of the semester was accomplished face-to-face before it went online. And really, these courses that are moving online are covering many topics that are not typically covered in online courses. And we're finding lots of creative ways. Our faculty and staff are finding creative ways to do things that were never before done online. And so they're really more a continuation of face-to-face courses than they are online courses. Even though we have to do them at a distance, that's really what they are.
Thank you very much on that, Provost Tabor. And really on that same line about student finances and concerns around that, and refunds as well, can we expect any changes to that with the new stimulus package that Congress passed? Or is there anything on the state or federal level that we can expect as students that might change some of these decisions, or that might be coming down the pipeline that we should be aware of?
Let me take that on, Chuck and Jensen. I think the situation is fluid. It's changing a lot. The big $2 trillion stimulus passed by the federal government, there'll probably be more. And what we're trying to do now is parse all that out of there and see what pieces might apply to our situation here at Kansas State University. In addition, the state has put some additional money in the budget for this as well, for universities as well. So yes, Jansen, it's evolving. I think I wouldn't want to give anybody a false hope that this is going to solve the tuition issue. I think what Chuck said, we're delivering content. We're doing it in very creative and innovative ways, and that's costing us money. We're having to spend money to do that we had not planned on spending, with communication resources and education and all those sorts of things. So education of faculty and training and so forth. So it's not business as normal. We're in a national emergency. I would say the chances of some sort of tuition rebate at this point is not realistic. The other thing I would say is people can go online. You can look at other universities, look at Big 12 universities, and nobody is at this point offering that. So we're consistent with what's happening not only in the Big 12, but essentially across the nation. The situation will evolve. One of our goals is we want our students to come out of this financially okay. That's in everybody's best interest. So we'll look for ways, given the various stimulus package and so forth, but don't place too many bets on that at this point.
Thank you. Thank you, President Myers. Moving on to a little bit of a different topic, talking about academic continuity. And as we're all taking classes online, there have been a lot of concerns with technology and internet access, as I mentioned, maybe for students in those rural areas, or now with all of us moving online, some of those slower internet speeds and connectivity issues. So with some students having limited access to technology that is imperative to succeed in their online classes and in labs, what is the university doing to assist those students that do not have access to the proper technology, proper internet, or broadband?
So let me answer that in a couple of ways. First, we through our university IT services, we've reached out to a variety of internet service providers across the state in particular. And we've also collected a lot of information about which of those service providers are providing free service or special services in response to this situation. And that information is available online on our website. If you go to, if you were to Google K-State Internet Expectations, K-State Internet Expectations, you'll turn up a page that's been put together that's designed to help you find help with technology. Now, this is not going to solve everybody's problem. And there are a lot of folks that simply aren't going to get adequate internet access in order to be able to fully participate in the online experience of the courses that we're setting up. So the second point I'd make is I've set out expectations with the faculty to show grace to students, to understand that we are all, including the faculty, in different places with respect to technology. Some of us have a wide path, and some of us have a trickle, and some of us have nothing. And so I'm asking faculty to find ways to accommodate students who are not able to participate because of lack of technology access. And this could be very old school in some cases. So I know some faculty are mailing things, and faculty are reaching out through phone connection and a variety of other ways. But that's the second part of this, is that the community has to pull together to help all members of the community succeed through this. And we do that by accommodating the different needs that different people have.
Thank you, Provost. And I know that right after spring break, faculty were really given one week to transform a class that was meant to be taught in person until May, and really turn that around and change it online. And so for students who may be having in instructors who are trying to figure out the technology and really how they're going to carry on their class, what is the best course of action if a student has a concern in a way that the instructor chooses to move their class online, or is really struggling in whatever method that is? Who should they go and talk to, and what should they do about it?
Yeah, so we created several web resources that are both for faculty and for students. First of all, I just want everyone to know that there's a Keep Teaching website that's focused on faculty to help them with that effort of trying to move courses online quickly. There's also a Keep Learning website that I would recommend students look at, especially if you don't have previous experience with online courses. Now, what do you do if your faculty member, if the teacher in your class is struggling with this? And I know that there are faculty members struggling with this. I would first ask, to have a little bit of grace yourselves for those faculty members. So, reach out, communicate with the faculty members, ask them, tell them how you're struggling with the class, and ask them to try to make changes to accommodate the problems that you're having. If you don't find success with that, I would suggest that you talk to academic advisors. If you are able to, the normal path would be to reach out to the department head and then the dean's college office Okay, so I would try that. If you're not able to get through, you should be able to get through emails for those people. But if you're not able to, I will invite you to email me if you have, and my email address is there. It's ctabor@ksu.edu. I am happy to take an email after you have gone through other attempts to solve the problem. If you really have an intractable problem, please reach out to me. I would like to know about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost. And kind of looking a little bit ahead into summer classes, I know there are some students who are hesitant to enroll in a summer class if they're unsure if it's going to be taught in person or if it will even be available at that time. So can you give us an update on if summer classes will be continued, if they'll be online, if there's a possibility of having global fees waived, and really what that will look like for summer 2020 courses?
Yeah, so we're at this time, we're still planning to have some in-person presence on campus in the summer. But we all, as the president said, this is a fluid situation. And, honestly, I'm not betting on that. That's our plan. But we're also simultaneously planning to be able to move things online as quickly as we can. We will make a decision on that relatively early in April. The drop dead date for us is the middle of April, but I think we really feel we need to make that decision earlier than that. So you will see a decision coming out from us in the relatively near future about what summer school will look like. And we also are looking ahead to the fall. We fully anticipate to be back in operation for the fall for in-person classes. But we are planning for the possibility that we may have to respond to this for a longer period of time.
Thank you. And really on that same line of summer, looking at orientation and enrollment, is the university planning or looking to adapt orientation and enrollment for this fall semester? Will it go online? What can prospective students expect for what it's going to look like for all of our campus activities over the summer, especially around orientation and enrollment?
Well, our staff is furiously working on planning for online orientation and enrollment if we need that. But we are, again, still hoping that we're able to do face-to-face events. So we're sort of working forward on two tracks, keeping the hope alive that we'll be able to do face-to-face, because those O&Es, those orientation and enrollments, are critical to students being onboarded to our university for the future. So we want to be able to do that face-to-face if we can. If we can't, believe me, they will be very creative, and they'll be wonderful experiences delivered virtually.
Thank you, Provost.
Jansen, if I could just make a comment, it's kind of a general comment about the pandemic we're in. We'll know the answer to those questions probably in the next 4, 5, 6 weeks, possibly, maybe not, possibly. A lot of it will depend on how ubiquitous testing becomes. Because if you start testing, then a lot of things are possible that aren't possible now when you test your general population. You can map it out. You can find out who has the virus, who doesn't have the virus. And if we know that, then a lot of other options open up. In the meantime, since we don't know that, here in the state of Kansas, we only test those that have serious symptoms. Then we have to do our physical distancing. Notice I'm not calling it social distancing, because there are a lot of ways to stay socially connected, but physical distancing is what we're talking about here. And so you could see a scenario play out. I don't know what the probability is. I'm not a virologist or epidemiologist, but I've heard them talk. There's a scenario that plays out that says this is seasonal. It goes away in the summertime, and then it comes back in the fall, or it goes away in the summertime and it doesn't come back, like SARS. Nobody knows for sure, but you can see scenarios. And the only reason I mention this is to kind of give us some light at the end of the tunnel. You can see some scenarios that we could get back to, maybe not business as usual, but business that is mostly usual with extra precautions and making sure, going with our first guiding principle, everybody stays healthy and is safe. So, you might want to listen to the folks on the television that are expert in this, but there's lots of different ways this can go. And I just pointed out one of the hopeful ways that it could go. And so as it evolves, we meet every day and we make decisions on this. I wouldn't say hourly, but every day we make decisions that impact all of our lives here at Kansas State University. And we're hoping as this month goes on that we'll be in a better position to predict what's going to happen in the summer and the fall.
Thank you, President. And as you mentioned, looking forward to the fall semester, there are a lot of classes, especially in the graduate programs, as well as some more specific degrees that have fall only and spring only classes and labs. So are the questions, or are the classes that are available in the fall going to be changed to spring only courses because of COVID-19? And what is going to be done, if anything, for some of those students who have to have a required class, but it is only for a fall only or spring only, and now that has been interrupted due to our current situation?
The issue there is really whether students are able to complete their courses in the spring, because what you're talking about only becomes a problem if students are off cycle. That is, they can't finish the course in the spring and they're looking for it in the fall. So our approach is going to be, we expect to finish almost all of our courses from the spring. So students will be able to complete them. But the courses where they're not able to complete, and there will be a handful of those, we will make special accommodation for those, but we're not going to get out of cycle, Jansen. That would really mess up future classes as well. So we're not going to wholesale offer spring only classes in the fall, but we will offer opportunities to cover for the classes that students maybe weren't able to complete this spring.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I know a lot of the conversation over the past few weeks has been the conversation over commencement for our spring 2020 graduates and the future in that. You all finally made a decision on postponing that and having spring 2020 graduates have their commencement ceremony in December. And so there have been a few concerns raised about that. So specifically for students who are international students, who have visas that are expiring, who may not be able to come back. Out of state students, there are a variety of reasons that students may not be able to come back in the December for that ceremony there. So does the university have anything planned to celebrate or help those graduates who are unable to attend in December, or help them be able to come back in December to celebrate their accomplishments?
So the group of people who sat down and really tried to think through what would be the best solution to this problem of commencement being not being able to be offered at its normal time, was to push it to a later time, and it was decided to do it in December. And we recognized that even with all the input that we had, that we couldn't possibly accommodate all of the different needs. So yes, we will be planning to do other forms of celebration. I know, for example, that the colleges are planning to do separate, many of them are planning to do some form of separate celebration for their graduates who are not able to attend the December commencement. And we don't have anything solid for me to tell you now, but we are certainly aware of this issue, and we're going to try to think of something that will be really a wonderful K-State celebration for everybody, but that will we wanted to have that face-to-face K-State graduation that's so special. I came to K-State a couple of years ago from another university, and I got to tell you, what we do for a university our size is almost unheard of, where every student gets to walk across the stage and get their name called and be recognized for their graduation. That's special, and that's part of our culture here. We don't want to lose that. So we really thought it was important to have that face-to-face. And the only way to do it was to push it into the future. But we have to do other things for the students who can't make that. And so we're planning, we're thinking. We'd be happy to hear ideas.
And just to add a little bit onto that, for Chuck and me, graduation's a really joyous time. We essentially shake everybody's hand that's graduating. For faculty and staff that are there, it's so joyous. So we miss this as much as students, I'll tell you that. In fact, I've never got to walk here at K-State. I graduated in January, and there was no winter ceremony. So I was invited to come to the June ceremony, but the United States Air Force had other plans for me. So I never got to walk. So I love coming to graduation and sharing in the joy that students and family and friends have in that celebration. So we all want the same thing. We're not trying to duck anything. We're just trying to figure out what works best for the most people. And if the colleges are doing it, and if Chuck and I get an invitation, we'll be there with you as well. So we look forward to shaking as many hands of our spring graduates as we possibly can.
Thank you, President Provost. This is a question geared a little bit towards our military and veteran students. How does a week of suspended classes affect the GI Bill benefits, or how does any of our current situation affect those benefits from the GI Bill?
I can take this one. From our best understanding, there is no change to benefits, and that includes also the basic allowance for housing as well, because classes are still going. There's still some discussion happening about classes that might have been canceled. I know that we may have had a few of those that were canceled completely, and what occurs there. But we're hoping that the VA will give us some guidance on that very shortly.
Being a former student on the VA, on the GI Bill, I think the VA was very early to say, hey, these are emergency times, and did just what Dr. Lane said, which is great for our students.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lane, President. I know that when we were all walking on campus a few months ago, there are a lot of different constructions and renovation projects taking place. So we got the questions with many students who are looking forward to projects such as Hale Library, Derby Dining Center, and the new Multicultural Student Center. Is there an estimated change in the time those are going to be completed? Can we expect those to be on time, pushed back? Is there an update on that yet?
I'll take the first part of this, and then I'll lateral Derby over to you, Thomas. For the Morris Family Cultural Center, Multicultural Center, construction is still occurring. We were just put on notice today by the construction company that's putting that together that there may be delays based on, state restrictions on their ability to do their work. But it's still going on. I drive by it literally every day or walk by it just to check on that. And so it's still going on, as is the work in Hale Library. So I would anticipate that Hale Library, which was supposed to be open all floors with a couple of exceptions, I think the great room was not going to be open yet, but essentially all floors in Hale Library would be open by the start of fall classes. And I have not heard any difference. I think people are still working there. You can see the workers, you can see the trucks. So that work is ongoing. And then for the Morris Family Multicultural Center, we'll have to see. Now, if the state puts out some sort of guidance that people can't work on construction sites because of the virus, then all of that would be delayed. But they haven't done that yet. So, but the construction company for Morris Family Cultural Center said, it's suppliers as well. We're not able to get some of the supplies we need to do our construction. So that's slowed down a little bit. So there's probably a pretty good probability that one might might slow down. How much we don't know yet, because we just got the notice, I think is either, I think today, maybe yesterday. I haven't heard anything like that for Hale Library. A lot of that work is inside. I hope they've got the supplies stacked up somewhere where we can keep that moving. That's what I know about those. Thomas, how about Derby?
Derby, the same. Right now, everything is going along as planned. The only thing that could potentially put a wrench in the works would be if there is or additional restrictions that would come down from the state that would impact whether construction could continue to occur. But as of right now, we look forward to that project remaining on time.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Lane, I believe this next question is going to go back to you. What is the university doing to support international students and other students who are either unable to return back to their home country or to their home if it's here domestically as well for any reason, if they have a family member who's immunocompromised or if they have to be quarantined somewhere else? What is the university doing in regards maybe for housing for those students who can't make it back home?
Yeah, so those were one of the few allowances that we provided in housing and dining for students to remain in the residence halls. So it could have been an extreme financial hardship, an international student who may not be able to make it back home to their permanent home. And it could also have been a domestic student who, for whatever reason, might have found themselves homeless based upon the decision that we made to close the residence halls. So all of those students should be taken care of in terms of that process. We have about, staying within the residence halls, we have about 36 students that have remained in the residence halls. A little over, I think, 25 of those students are international students. And so we continue to provide very limited dining service, but a residence hall space, a dining service space, and hopefully if there's any additional support that those students would need, certainly I would want them to reach out to either international programs or the Office of Student Life for any kind of additional help that they might be looking for. Perfect.
Thank you. Something else that is also happening in the midst of COVID-19 in our Constitution too is Census 2020 and getting everyone counted. With normally everyone in the residence halls being counted here on campus, and with that, and with all of us moving home in that transition, where should students who were previously in the residence halls be counted, and what should them and their families do, and what should students do who are either still living here off campus in Manhattan or have moved back to their previous residence? What should we do, even though on April 1st, which is a date that the census talks about a lot? What response to that?
Sure, I can start with this. If anyone would like to add on, feel free to do so. If you live in our residence halls or in Jardine Apartments or in one of our fraternity and sorority life houses, the managers of those facilities will take care of that process for you. So that's one piece of the question. For those students who perhaps didn't live in one of those environments, you can go to my2020census.gov, my2020census.gov. Regardless of whether you received a mailer at your house or your apartment or at school, go there now and click Start Questionnaire, and you'll see a sign or a statement that says, if you do not have a census ID, click here. Go ahead and respond to the prompts, and then you'll be counted in the community that you were intending to reside in as of April 1st. And again, there's a great website that the university has in regards to the census. It's part of it was a K-State Today article, but if you type in K-State census, you should be able to hit it.
And this is Myers again. I just want to reiterate how important this is. A lot of the federal funds that come to states and communities and state funds are distributed based on the population, the size of the population. And those benefits benefit all of this community, faculty, staff, students, the community itself. It's really important that we count. a number of us that live here most of the year. And Thomas just outlined a way to do that. So please do that. Don't take it lightly. It can make a lot of difference in your transportation, for instance, around Manhattan, or other recreational opportunities you may have here in Manhattan. This is, and many, many other areas, but it's just so important. And help with those students that don't think it's important. Please tell them this is important. I did my census here. I think it took me, it says plan on it taking 10 minutes. I think it took a minute and a half. It was unbelievably easy to complete the census. So it's not like you have to spend a lot of time on it. Then you can feel like you did a good job and pat yourself on the back and get back to your studies.
Dr. Lane, President Myers, thank you very much. We have a lot of students joining us from the Olathe and Salina campuses. They have a question asking if the A pass fail will still apply to them. And then I will also broaden up that question as well with if a lot of the refund choices made here, if that Salina and Olathe, or if there are some different decisions being made on our other two campuses outside of Manhattan.
So the APAS fail will apply across the entire university, so all campuses. It is important. I talked earlier about some of the sort of limitations, and this will be called out in the communication tomorrow, but just be aware that there may be some external requirements with some programs, and some courses that require a letter grade. So, you know, if you're seeking licensure in some field, it may be that agency requires a letter grade. So it's going to be, and that may be true for Polytechnic campus in some of their stuff in particular. So it's available, but again, talk to advisors to make sure that you're making the right decision. What was the other question, Jensen?
I just kind of open it up a little bit more generally, maybe especially around refunds as well, if all those same decisions will also apply across the entire university.
Thomas, do you want to talk about housing and dining and
So housing and dining, I know, will be consistent with the Polytechnic campus.
And tuition will be consistent.
And I just want to add, one of those questions talked about the A pass fail, and one of the chat things, and I don't, just to cover it here, will we be able to choose which classes we choose for this? And as Dr. Tabor said earlier, yes.
Yes.
You can do it class by class.
Yes. And again, you can wait until the very last week of classes and know how you were doing in the class, and then make that selection. Again, talk to your advisor.
And just to reiterate that point, that will be in the student edition of the K-State Today tomorrow with all that information, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, sounds great.
And then there's an FAQ that's been created that'll be on the registrar's website that'll go into even more detail. Perfect.
Thank you, Provost Tabor. With Kansas State University having our own health center, Lafayette, right here on campus, we had a question: will or is Lafayette testing for COVID-19? What does that look like? And if any students feel like they are showing symptoms, what should they do?
Sure. So Lafayette right now can only test people who come in showing symptoms, because we just simply don't have enough tests to do screening. The turnaround time for test right now is variable. They hope to be doing more screening when tests become more widely available. But if any K-Stater feels ill with COVID-19 symptoms, they should call ahead. And there's great instructions on Lafayette's website that tells you how to do that process. So don't hesitate to call ahead and share with a medical provider at Lafayette the symptoms you're experiencing, and then they will tell you what the best next steps are. And that might include testing.
Thank you, Dr. Lane. Moving on a little bit more towards IT and our security online. As we're taking all these classes online, having a lot of media site usage, Canvas, a lot of page sharing, and a lot of Zoom, just as this. there have been different instances happening across across a lot of different universities, and a couple times here at our own, referred to as Zoom bombing. And so, what is the university doing as far as in internal controls and communicating to students, faculty, and staff on how we can protect ourselves and our own classes, our own org meetings, and all the actions that we are taking online now that we're doing everything virtually?
So a key point in this, and I'll ask Gary Pratt to fill in here, but the key point is sign in with your password and don't share that with anybody. The Zoom bombing, I understand, occurred mostly in public events where people weren't required to sign in. For this event, you all were required to sign in with password. And hopefully that will keep us from an incident like that. But Gary, do you want to elaborate a little bit more?
Okay, I'd be happy to. I, for some reason, can't get my video to unmute. So here we go. Yes, we are working diligently to stay in front of all of the security challenges that are going on out there. We have had at least one example of the Zoom bombing event happen at a session here. So we are diligently working with folks to train them on how to keep us from running into an issue with making sure we had registrants, or they have to sign in with their login, their EID login. We have a number of other types of features that we are training people on how to keep that type of event from happening. I think that we've had actually a few examples prior to the COVID-19 crisis of students falling for phishing attacks and giving away their credentials. And we had a big run of that right before the current crisis. So with the current crisis, there are a lot of people out there trying to take advantage of that. So there are a lot of coronavirus, COVID-19 emails, phishing attacks. Please buy this product. We have your stimulus package check. You just need to click here and give us your credentials for your bank account. Those types of things are happening in a significantly increased way. We have received daily FBI warnings. So the best thing we can tell you is do not give your credentials away. We would not ask for them, and the IRS would not ask for them. The government would not ask for them. We will ensure that our systems are as secure as we possibly can. But again, the strength of our security is really going to fall on the individual user being smart, being aware, and using common sense.
Thank you, Gary Pratt. And Gary Pratt is our Chief Information Officer here at K-State as well. Another question that we've been getting a lot on the YouTube live chat is how a lot of other universities within the Big 12 have decided to hold an August commencement ceremony for their graduates. And the question is, was this considered, and why maybe was that not the final option in having an August ceremony?
Yeah, it was considered. It was ultimately not adopted for two reasons. One, because the difficulty in setting up this additional event at that time would make it wouldn't be sure that this would be the same kind of powerful event that we normally do. And the second, and in addition to that, many people wouldn't be able to come back necessarily to that event. So there's a trade-off. The other issue here is that by combining the two, we're able to really have the same kind of K-State ceremony that we normally do, rather than doing something that's sort of thrown together for students. And so that was really the ultimate deciding factor here. And finally, we're not really sure what will be happening in August. And so it was really important to us to make a decision that we were fairly confident we would be able to live with going forward.
Thank you, Provost Tabor. Another question that we had specific to students who have internships or who are student teaching, what will happen with them? Will there be any adjustments for those who have kind of had to cut their time short student teaching or in those internships?
Yeah, so some of those things are yet to be worked out. I would advise any students who are in that situation to contact their department, the people that they're working with on their internship, to contact their professors if they're working with a professor on a teaching assistantship. And it's really going to have to be handled in a case-by-case way, because some of those folks are able to continue helping through this time, and that would be my hope. But others are not. So it's going to have to be handled in a case-by-case way.
Thank you, Provost. We have another follow-up question regarding the refunds for housing and dining. Is it possible for that refund to stay in CASIS until the fall so that it can be applied to the bill then? Or are all those going to be sent back out in the form of checks or other ways over the summer when that happens? Or if we have any update on what that will look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we're still working out the details on how refunds would be processed. So I'll certainly explore that option. That's the first time that's actually been brought up to me. So I appreciate the question that came forward.
We know the parking refunds will be refunded to CASIS. Whether or not they can carry over to fall, I don't know, but that's a great question. So we'll work it.
Thank you. And we had another question come in. I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, but has there been any speculation or planning in the case that fall 2020 classes have to also be online, or what that would look like?
So certainly we are starting to plan for that possibility. And so that would be, we would have a lot more time to ramp that up. And so we would have the opportunity to really develop with the faculty their courses prior to that, if that's what we know is coming down the pike. So if we're there, we will be prepared when we get to the fall.
Thank you. I know that we are about to end our for our virtual town hall. I'm gonna hand it over to President Provost Dr. Lane. Do you have any closing thoughts for us as we continue taking our classes online in the midst of this crisis? Any final words for us?
So Thomas, do you mind going first?
Yeah, that's great. One thing that I don't know if we touched on, Jansen, is there's a great resource that our Student Financial Aid Office has put together in regards to emergency funding resources. I know that there's a lot of students that are really expecting some unexpected financial difficulties, whether that might be rent or cable bills or whatever that next bill that might be concerned about paying from. Check out that website. It's a one-stop shop for emergency grant dollars, emergency loan dollars. Don't also forget about K-State Proud. There's lots of resources available for you. If you've run up against that unexpected financial difficulty, reach out, use that site. Again, it's really easy to use. There's a really brief questionnaire to fill out. I would encourage students who aren't familiar with that site to become familiar with it.
Thanks, Thomas.
I just want to thank all of you for joining this afternoon. It's been great to hear your questions and have an opportunity to think about them. There are several of them that we will continue to think about going forward. We are really an incredible community here, and our faculty, staff, and students are going to extraordinary lengths to make sure that we can continue with our fundamental mission as a land-grant university. So I'm really proud of all of you and all of our faculty and staff for the work that we're doing. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Thomas. And as I sign off, Jansen Penny, thank you so much for being willing to moderate, facilitate this discussion. You're a natural. You've done a terrific job at that. And to everybody on this or in this town hall. I hope we'll have the opportunity to do it again. I'm counting on that. Nobody in the K-State family says no. When we have a problem, people pitch in to see how we can make things happen, make it better for students, for faculty, for staff, whatever it is. We've got some hard times and hard decisions ahead of us. Some we have a glimmer of what they might be, some we don't have a clue. But with the teamwork that's been displayed up to now, we'll get through this. We really will get through this. So I thank you for your resilience, for your patience. For those on this in this town hall, I appreciate the fact you're here and listening. And for all the folks that answered questions, thank you for your expertise and what you do every day as administrators here at Kansas State University. So with that, let's go Cats and K-State strong.